Hello and welcome to week 5 of Project ATC10k. And this week's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be less about the daily training runs that I did and more about the On CloudBoom Strike. This is a full review and shoe off of the CloudBoom Strike, so I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, and enjoy the review. On CloudBoom Strike specs and features. This is On's new racing shoe, and it's an all Puma midsole. In fact, it is a 2-part midsole. The big new thing here is the removable Puma topsole. And you can't get to the carbon plate on the bottom, but once you remove that top plate, you can tap the plate right there. So let me put that guy back in because I don't really see the point of removing the midsole except to show that you can remove the midsole. Let's start at the top. The upper is very thin and it is a non-elastic upper. It is kind of a one-piece mono mesh type upper. The laces are also very thin and they feel very slick, although there is, if I don't go out of focus here, there is a little bit of like a silicone stick to them once you get to the parts that you actually tie. However, I could still see these coming untied. I might have to replace these with some serrated race laces that I bought post-market. Continuing with the upper, we've got 2 bumper pads on either side of the heel. Other than that, the heel cup has no structure. There's a little pull tab. I tried this on briefly in the store to make sure there wouldn't be any issues. I don't think there's going to be any chafing there.
There would in fact be some chafing there.
The tongue is likewise very thin. There are pads across the top in order to keep the lace pressure off the foot. It's a pretty rudimentary lacing system. There are no double eyelets or anything. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 eyelets. It looks like the last eyelet is already being used. So if you have to, you do a runner's knot, I'm not sure how that's going to accommodate you. It is an asymmetrical lacing system. And there is the Swiss flag there because of course it is Swiss engineering. Midsole, we talked about how it's all Puma. It's going to be thicker on the bottom part near the heel, but you still have some on the top and the removable part. And then you'll have a lot of the thicker midsole above the plate towards the toes on that removable part that I'm just going to leave in there. And you'll see less of it on the outside there. There is plenty of outsole for a race shoe. I haven't been able to test the grip yet because I haven't run in these shoes outside, but it looks pretty decent for the size shoe it is. I was surprised how much outsole there is considering the weight of the shoe. I did weigh these shoes and I believe the left shoe was 216 grams or 7.6 ounces, and I think the right shoe was 213 grams, 7.5 ounces, and I even weighed them without the removable midsole just because I was curious. Right shoe without the removable midsole, 172 grams. So that would mean the removable midsole itself, 41 grams. Yeah, so that's all the specs and features. It looks like a pretty interesting shoe. I can't wait to run in it. Good morning and happy Monday, and welcome to week 5 of Project ATC10k. And Khan is pretty excited here for a Monday morning. Me, I have to go back to work today. That's why I got to run early. But this is going to be a departure from a normal Monday for me, because normally on Mondays I would just do some easy mileage, maybe some strides. Today is going to be a little bit different, especially considering if you watched last week's video, I would have just done a 10K time trial yesterday, Sunday, but today I'm going to get out and run in the On CloudBoom Strike, their new super racer. Yeah, what do you think of that, buddy? Not because I want to get a workout in or anything. I don't plan to do a workout, but because with Hurricane Debbie coming up from the Gulf and about to stall over the Carolinas in a few days, I don't know how many nice days I'm going to have for running. So I want to try and get some miles in this shoe while the weather is still nice. Wow, so first run in the On CloudBoom Strike. Early thoughts. Yeah, this was an easy run the day after I did a 38-minute 10K time trial, and one could get spoiled running an easy day in this shoe. I ran quite a bit faster than I should have on an easy day, but I wasn't in any danger of going too hard. I think, at least if the heart rate on my watch is to be believed, I was still in the easy zone. It just came pretty quickly, easily. However, I wasn't doing anything approaching marathon pace or faster, and what struck me about the shoe is it still felt good at paces that were slower than marathon pace. So even after this first non-workout run, this might be a racing shoe that's not going to be limited to only going certain paces. Okay, this is Future Chaz. I have already completed this shoe off, but it was pretty dark when I started it, so I didn't get a lot of video footage beforehand, at least usable video footage, and the first couple of shoes are pretty dark, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce them after the fact now. The On CloudBoom Strike is the shoe in the hot seat today, and I'm testing against a bunch of what I consider top-tier super shoes. Some of them skew towards the faster efforts, others are more geared toward the marathon. So in order: ASICS MetaSpeed Edge Paris, Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3, Hoka Rocket X2, Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3, Saucony Endorphin Elite, and Nike AlphaFly 3. Enjoy the shoe off, guys. ASICS MetaSpeed Edge Paris and the On CloudBoom Strike. It's awful dark. You guys aren't going to be able to see much, but I'll talk to you anyway. So the ASICS MetaSpeed Edge Paris and the CloudBoom Strike, they have fairly similar measurements as far as stack height, but they don't feel like it. The CloudBoom Strike feels like there's more cushion, more foam underneath, and it does have a slightly lower drop, but it feels softer and more forgiving. The ASICS MetaSpeed Edge Paris is not a firm shoe, especially compared to the MetaSpeed Edge Plus, but it feels almost like a Takumi Sen compared to the CloudBoom Strike. So it feels skewed towards those faster, shorter efforts, which is what I like to use it for. The CloudBoom Strike, I think, is going to be better compared with some of the marathon racers later in this shoe off. Okay, Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 versus the CloudBoom Strike. Alright, we're starting to get a little more light in the sky. So the Deviate Nitro Elite 3 doesn't feel like it's less of a shoe than the CloudBoom Strike, like the Edge Paris did, but you definitely feel the different flavor of the response from the aliphatic TPU in the new Nitro foam versus the Puma that On is using in the CloudBoom Strike. The CloudBoom Strike, at least at this pace, which is, I don't know, still a little bit slower than marathon pace, is smoother, softer but also smoother, whereas the Deviate Nitro Elite 3, I think, really needs a faster pace to punch up that foam. Here, let's do a faster pace. So at 540 pace, they feel a little bit closer together as far as response, but the CloudBoom Strike is still softer, and the Deviate Nitro Elite is still kind of punchier off the toe. All right, now we're rocking the Hoka Rocket X2 versus the On CloudBoom Strike. So I see the Hoka Rocket X2 as a pretty forgiving shoe that could run fast, but also handle a marathon. I think my buddy Derek would agree with me, since he ran a 2:46 in this shoe at a Monumental Marathon. But the CloudBoom Strike makes the Hoka Rocket X2 seem firm, and it's not a firm shoe. It makes me think that if I were going to run a marathon in the CloudBoom Strike, I might use the Rocket X2 for a half marathon. In a way, cushioning feels similar as far as like the flavor of the Puma, but the CloudBoom Strike feels like it's halfway between the Rocket X2 and the Cielo X1 as far as bounciness of the rebound. However, it's as light as the Rocket X2 is. So it's a good thing I'm about to switch feet with the CloudBoom Strike, because got a little bit of Achilles irritation here. I should have not worn no-show socks. We'll see how that develops into the testing. Adidas Adios Pro 3 and CloudBoom Strike. All right, both of these shoes have uppers that are not my favorite. That being said, I think the CloudBoom Strike, at least today, has a bit better lockdown for me. Midsole experience, the Adios Pro 3. Once you get past the break-in period with that Light Strike Pro, you pretty much know what you're gonna get for the beginning to the end of your run for 300, 400, maybe 500 miles. I don't know, I haven't taken it that far, which makes it a good choice for a marathon or an ultra. I did use one of these at Frosty 50K. It just doesn't have that bounce that the CloudBoom Strike has. It makes me want to take the CloudBoom Strike on a longer run to see how the response at the end of the run compares to the beginning of the run, because I think that might be the key difference there. But if I were to pick up one of these to enjoy a couple hours on the road right now, I'd probably go with the On CloudBoom Strike. This is my current PR marathon shoe, the Saucony Endorphin Elite versus the On CloudBoom Strike. Let's go. So it's hard to match the step-in comfort of the Endorphin Elite for me. I know that upper can be very polarizing, but I find it to be extremely comfortable. It just works for me, it disappears on my foot. The CloudBoom Strike, not so much. However, the midsole experience is interesting. The Endorphin Elite has always been smooth for me. Some call it firm, too firm for the marathon. I don't. I think it's just right for the marathon. The CloudBoom Strike is bouncier in the forefoot. You can definitely tell that extra forefoot cushioning that the Saucony doesn't have, because it's an 8mm drop. So it has less stack height, 31.5 millimeters, under 32 millimeters in the forefoot, whereas I presume the CloudBoom Strike has closer to 35 or 36 millimeters under the forefoot. Now, bounciness does not always mean fastest. Again, I would know more about how that would benefit or compare with a longer run. So it's hard to beat the Endorphin Elite as a choice for a marathon shoe, except for maybe the next shoe I'm going to bring out. But the CloudBoom Strike is in that conversation. All right, right, speaking of top tier marathon shoe conversations, here's the CloudBoom Strike against the Nike AlphaFly 3. Let's go. Okay, so in my mind, the CloudBoom Strike is On's attempt to answer the AlphaFly series. I was talking to one of the employees helping me out at Charlotte Running Company the other day, and I was saying, if the CloudBoom Echo 3 is On's Vaporfly, then the CloudBoom Strike is their AlphaFly. And that was from trying on the shoe in the store, putting it on the treadmill for about 3 minutes. Now, as far as between these two shoes, which one you would prefer, that's going to kind of depend on how you feel about the response from those AirPods, because you really do get a pop from the AirPods, but you're aware of it in every step. I don't have a problem with that, at least I didn't in the one race I've done in the AlphaFly 3 so far. But in that same part of the shoe, you feel a gooey, bouncy, foamy response, deep dynamic response from the Puma on the CloudBoom Strike. So it might depend on what pace you're targeting, how long you intend to be on foot, or other factors with the shoe that would make you decide between these two. But I can say that the CloudBoom Strike is going to be more in the marathon conversation than in the 10K, 10 mile faster effort conversation. Happy Friday. So it's the day after Hurricane Debbie came through, really tropical storm Debbie. So we had several inches of rain yesterday, as well as a lot of tree limbs down and stuff. But I was able to sandwich a couple of workouts the day before and then today. So bookending that hurricane day. Wednesday, I did 4 by mile at 10K race pace, plus 4 by 400, all of it on the road. And that was at more of a 5K to 3K effort. And then today, I was able to get some good volume with some tempo effort, some LT effort. I did 3 by 10 minutes at more of an LT pace with 2-minute recoveries. And LT pace, think 1 hour race pace. For me, that's a 15K to 10 mile race pace, right in the 610 to 612 per mile zone. And that's where my 10-minute reps were. After today, well, today's gonna be a 15+ mile run, but after today, I will have gotten a little over 40 miles on the CloudBoom Strike in maybe a 5-day time. So I'll have a good idea of the feeling of the shoe, as well as how it feels at several different paces. And other factors like the upper and the wet traction, which we'll need to talk about. Okay, I'll see you for the shoe talk. So yeah, the winds and the rain from Tropical Storm Debbie have kind of made a mess of everything. No big destruction or anything, but just a lot for me to have to clean up. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the fit of the CloudBoom Strike, which I usually do earlier on in the video, but having run a little over 40 miles in it now, I can speak to it. It does take some dialing in. This upper, we'll talk about the laces during the shoe talk. As far as the fit, I thought it was going to be a little too big for me, but I still went true to size, and I don't regret it. I have a full thumb width here. Once I actually stand up and put weight into the shoe, it's about the right length, and there's a decent amount of width too. It doesn't really feel like a racery fit, but it might be more appropriate for a marathon racer. Certainly not like a really snug fit that I would expect out of a shorter distance racer. So we'll talk about that more in the shoe talk, but this is definitely going to be more of a marathon centered shoe for me, at least. Shoe talk time. As I said during road testing, I have a little more than 40 miles on this shoe in the space of Monday through Friday. And yeah, I've taken it through the paces. I have spent a good amount of time at more of a lactate pace, at some faster paces like 10K and 5K and a little bit faster paces. Haven't done any prolonged marathon pace work in it because I'm more in peak training for a 10K right now. I'll certainly bring this back into the rotation as I'm training for Houston Marathon, but I have kind of done some marathon adjacent pacing as I've been, you know, surging and ebbing and flowing in regular runs. So I have a good idea of where this shoe's wheelhouse is. As I talked about with the fit and during the shoe off, this upper, not my favorite upper, but it's growing on me. It's not going to be something that I think is going to be the most comfortable upper like I find on the Saucony Endorphin Elite, but it will do its job. It does shed water very well. It's hydrophobic. And in today's run, 15-mile run after the hurricane, I did get my feet pretty wet. I submerged myself in a few puddles, but it did not hold on to the water. You can tell it's pretty translucent there. It's almost transparent. You can see my hands through the upper there. So you can imagine water escaping it really quickly. I did something I haven't done before, which is after I took these off, after that wet run, I put them right on the scale. And each shoe, the left shoe and the right shoe, gained about 6 grams of water, or retained about 6 grams of water after that wet run. And I don't have a baseline for water retention. I haven't done that with other shoes, but that seems pretty reasonable for the overall weight of the shoe, not to hold on to that little amount of water. So the upper does its job. It's lightweight, it sheds water. It's just not the most form-fitting. It's non-elastic, so it does bunch a little bit. The lacing system, you're definitely going to need to take some time to play with to get the proper lockdown. So it's not too tight up here. There's a lot of friction in the system, a lot having to do with these rubberized laces, which you cannot really see, but you could feel. So it takes some time to get the hang of. If you're a triathlete, this is not a shoe for quick transitions. The heel cup does have those little bumpers there, but there was some irritation there on my left Achilles. I did open the skin up, and that was uncomfortable for the next couple of runs, mainly because it had already opened up from this shoe, not because it kept on bothering it. I think with the proper socks and the proper application of Body Glide or other topical lubricant, then that can be avoided. But it's another step. It's another layer to think about. The midsole is fantastic. It is a fun shoe to run in. The bounce is very lively, and having taken it on runs up to 15 miles, I can infer that the bounce is going to be very lively through the end of a longer effort, which brings it back into that marathon conversation. Now, that lively bounce, it's fun to run in, but there are some caveats. It is a little bit ungainly, as a really bouncy cushion shoe might be. Something like the Hoka Cielo X1, you might think would be more unstable than this, but its plate is a little bit thicker in wings, so it's a little bit more stable than this. As long as you're not doing too many tight turns, then you're not going to have any problems with the stability of this shoe. But it's definitely meant for cruising in one direction without any tight turns, especially under the forefoot. I'm a forefoot striker, forefoot to midfoot striker, so I really feel that deep compression and decompression throughout the stride. However, when I lengthen my stride and kind of get into a cruisy pace, and I'm landing on more of the midfoot, forefoot, the whole foot at once, and I'm using the whole length of the midsole, I really feel the full benefit of it. That's when I really feel the spring from the plate. It is a low drop. It's a 4 millimeter drop because you have a lot of cushion here and a lot of cushion here. However, there's enough room for that plate to have a very steep angle and then a late stage toe off that allows you to really roll aggressively. And you can tell by the top cushion there, how steeply that plate angles down. So the midsole response is high marks. It's going to be among one of the most fun midsole responses. The outsole, it's a little bit stained from this morning. That's the exposed PIBA there. That's Helion HF is the name of this PIBA compound, by the way. The outsole, a lot of people have talked about wear on the outsole. These smooth parts, that's not from wear. They actually come out of the box like that. So I don't know why they come out of the box looking like it's pre-worn, but there's not any extra wear on the outsole. Durability is going to be good, flies, but wet traction is less than optimal. I would say maybe even less than average. I was running on wet roads all of today, and there was a little bit of slip, especially as I was picking up the pace. So in an outsole, if you're looking for midsole protection and durability, this is going to be good. If you're looking to use it in dry conditions, it's also going to be good. But if you're looking for a bite in wet weather, you might be let down by this shoe. As far as how I would use this shoe, it's definitely going to be a marathon or a half marathon racer, not really any faster than that. I was able to pick it up into some, tempo to 10k efforts, and it still felt smooth there as long as I was concentrating on cruising and not just pushing and getting that 5k effort. But it also felt equally good at slower than marathon pace, at more of a steady pace. So if you think about when I would choose this shoe, it would be for a marathon that would be tactical or hilly or have a lot of ebbs and flows to it. If I were going to run a flat marathon where I were looking to maintain a constant PR pace the whole time without varying more than 5 or 10 seconds per mile, I would go with the Saucony Endorphin Elite. That's what I used for Chicago, where I was sticking to that 628 pace plus or minus a few seconds the whole time. But if I were going to have to slow down for any reason, this might not be as accommodating, whereas this could kind of handle those slower paces and not balk when I pick it up, as long as I'm not picking it up past, say, 10k pace. Now, it doesn't quite have as much pop as the AlphaFly 3, but if I'm cruising, just laying back and cruising at marathon pace, then I can kind of just enjoy the cushiness of that ride, whereas this one, I'm going to be thinking about how much it pops me forward. Again, not a bad thing. That's just the difference in experiences between these two shoes. All right, so I hope I've given you plenty to think about with the On CloudBoom Strike. I'm going to end this shoe talk before it gets too long. Don't forget to run your LSD, folks, which means like, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications. And we'll see you next week for Project ATC10k Week 6.